You're in the air.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm doing a worksheet, and I'm just about to write down the goal. I started it, and I felt like I would like to have help with this. This feels like it could be pretty significant, and yet it seems so simple on the surface. So this morning I watched a short video of an interview with a woman named Barbara O'Neill, who is a natural. She's incredible as far as I'm concerned. She's a natural healer type herbalist woman, and she just has such. My impression of her is that she's just without guile and full of truth. And I noticed every time I've come across her, I think I should be, watching her. I should be learning more from her. I should be paying attention to her, and then I don't ever do it. So the worksheet, if I can just go forward with it, is I, Doug, who I'm experiencing, and I put down fear. It was like, I'm not sure what emotion this is. I was just like, this is very puzzling to me. I was just like, why don't I ever watch her? What does this really mean? What's going on here? And then I got down to, I put her in for 1C, and then I think I should watch her, but I don't, is my story. My thought was...
Now, are you making her 1C?
Yes, Barbara O'Neill is what I put down. And as you're saying, maybe I should refine that. I'm just, as you question it, I'm like, should I put down that I don't watch her videos? I mean, I put her down.
It's you. That's right. It's you. And then the story is she has these videos that I'm not watching, or I'm not watching these videos. So
okay, so I'm the subject.
Yes, because we're going to make the goal, we're going to dig out within you a goal that you're currently holding for whoever's in 1C. And you don't have any goal for her to change.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you have a goal for yourself to change, to start following her work and watching the videos more, correct?
That is correct. That's correct.
Okay, so then the appropriate, to get the most out of this worksheet, the most leverage would be to make sure that you, the person that you have the goal for, is in 1C.
Okay, so I've changed that now. Okay, and then I came down to 1D and I wrote, if I watch, I will have to change my ways. I will be convicted of my errors. And
okay, all right. Now let me help you by clarifying for me, what's the emotion you chose?
I chose fear.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
So
right.
That's a good thought that will generate fear, right? The idea is I want to match the thought that I'm thinking to the emotion I'm creating. And so that's it. Your thought is, if I watch these videos, it's going to force me to change in ways I don't want to change.
That's it. And I'll be convicted of my errors. It's like it's going to convict me of it. I'm be convicted. Like guilt was in there.
Powerful word, right?
Okay.
A powerful choice of words. Convicted. So you're right on it.
Okay.
Keep your breath moving.
Okay. Oh my, yeah. Just taking one breath, and I'm like, oh my God, so much guilt. That's interesting. That is so
all right, but
interesting.
make a note, please. Make a note on another sheet of paper. Guilt.
Okay.
And if the thought behind this guilt is there, you're guilty of what? Just make the note. You don't have to tell us right now, but make the note for yourself, because that's how you can leverage one worksheet into 4 or 5 others and really do some deep digging about what's got you stuck.
I think it's very important. I mean, I'm profoundly surprised by this, how much guilt I feel, and I'm like.
Do you know what the thought is? about what you're guilty of.
If I were to, maybe it's being disobedient. It's like I'll be punished by God. It's like there's a whole bunch of stuff here. It's like I'm seeing myself as a young person feeling guilty. I mean, like being bad. You know, I'm bad if my mom or dad are mad at me, if my grandma's mad at me, especially my grandma.
Okay, so just in general, I'm a bad person. Just make that note. Guilt about being a bad person and or not being good enough. So just make that as a side note for another worksheet, and then let's get back to this one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just profoundly amazed at how much guilt I feel. Holy mackerel, that is just amazing to me. Okay, and coming from this, it's just shocking me actually. Okay, so I choose. Okay, so I want to punish. Okay, breath.
So 1D, the thought that you're using to create the emotion is. Remind us, the thought you're using to create the emotion is.
If I watch, I will have to change my ways. I will be convicted of my errors.
Got it.
And the emphasis is on that word convicted. I will be convicted.
Okay. And then
you
want to choose to love truth and willingly face and process out all disease-producing energies for and from your relations and generations, and breathe into that. And then you want to choose the goal. Go ahead.
Okay. We skipped the punishment thought, but
I'm sorry. Go right back. Go ahead to that.
I want to say I will go back to that, but first I want to say that for the first time that I can ever remember in doing a worksheet, when I did 2A, I choose to love truth and willingly process all disease-producing energies from all my generations. Check that box and go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing, which is exactly what would happen if I did her, you know, in proper, better diet and health and mental wellness and every other thing that whatever she teaches. There was reluctance to check those boxes. I never have experienced that before. When I get to 2A, I'm like always, yes, 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 let's do it. I want to let go of the, you know, I'm good, let's go. Let's willingly go through the symptoms of healing, you know, and I was like, yeah, well, I don't really want to do that. And that's, I don't remember ever a worksheet where I wasn't enthused about going forward. So to the punishment thought, I wrote down, I wanted to punish 1C by not watching. That's what I wrote down. I'm not mad at her. I just don't want to watch. I don't know if
but it's not her. We don't have a punishment thought for her. We have one for you.
That's right. That was before I corrected the worksheet above. So punish myself by I already had written down condemn myself as bad.
Got it. That's good enough. That's good enough.
Okay. All right.
I'm guilty. I'm bad. Yeah, beating myself up emotionally. Right.
Yeah. So I'm going to cross out the not watching because that doesn't apply. I don't have a punishment thought towards her that I'm aware of. So I choose truth reluctantly, but yes, part of me wants to, and process out all the energies. Oh, man, this is interesting. It's like I have never been reluctant to do that. And it's like I don't want to face all that shit. I just feel it, you know, as I read that. It's like I don't want to face all the guilt. I don't want to face all the stuff all the suppressed content that's behind this. I don't want to see it. So go through the physical and mental symptoms and healing. Yes, okay, I'm willing to do it. I release and surrender myself, my emotions, 1C, my story, and my thoughts, and my punishment to love. And it's amazing to me how I'm not in theos about that.
Okay.
I cancel me.
Now take a breath, if you would, and scan your body and notice how strong is the fear at the beginning of this worksheet.
it didn't feel that strong at the beginning of the worksheet. Now it feels a lot bigger. It feels a lot bigger. It just feels a lot bigger. It feels like I want to cry.
So 0 to 10, what number would you throw on it?
Well, a 10. A 10. I have to say a 10 because I'm feeling like I'm a little kid. I'm terrified. I'm guilty.
Okay, so let's
I'm bad.
move over to number 3. Let's move over to number 3. What's the goal? What's the desire? The constructive result.
Stuff before. The only thing I had written before was I was having trouble finding the goal, and that definitely inspired me to call. But to hold myself as a lover and follower of truth. That was the thought I had on what the goal might be. I mean, that was the one thought.
Let's make the goal. Let's craft the goal to be more practically directly related to what's going on in this worksheet.
Okay.
And what the fear is about. My goal is that I'm able to watch videos like this and apply them in my life to heal and move forward.
Okay.
Now, if you were able to watch videos like this, apply the information in your life and heal and move forward, would you have any need for this worksheet? The answer is no, right? So we want to construct a goal in any worksheet we're doing where as we construct the goal, if we had a magic wand and could make that happen, we wouldn't even need to be doing the worksheet.
Say that again, please. Please.
Over and over again, when I do a worksheet, I want to craft a goal such that if this goal could magically happen, there would be no need for me to do the worksheet. I wouldn't have the fear. I wouldn't have the negative thought that's driving the fear. I wouldn't be blocked from watching this woman's videos and applying the information in my life. So that's how you know when I'm coaching people through a worksheet, that's what I do. I keep trying to line up the situation as they perceive it, the emotion they're creating, the thought they're using to create it, and craft a goal that draws on those very specific things, words and dynamics, to craft a goal that if the goal could happen magically, we wouldn't even need to do this worksheet.
Okay, got it.
So the goal that I'm suggesting for you here is that you be able to watch these videos and apply their information in your life to heal. So to watch and apply the information and heal.
That's great. Yeah, that works. That's pretty disturbing and right to the point.
So take a breath before you move on.
My stomach's starting to hurt a lot.
All the more reason to keep the breath moving and just be willing to feel the hurt in the stomach that's just started. We know if it just started up right now, it's not food poisoning, it's not an appendicitis. It's just energy related to these thoughts and beliefs and emotions. So let it be there and keep the breath moving. And then we go to number 4. And number 4, we choose your essence, which is love. And when you do it, stirs the love in everyone involved. So I ask people to do a little bit of meditation here and focus on some of the most happy, safe, loving, strong, joyful memories they have from any time in their life, whether it's recent or distant past. And breathe into that. I encourage people to close their eyes, maybe put their hand over their heart space, and breathe into it, focusing on these happy, loving, strong, safe, joyful memories until they shift the energy in their heart space before we move on.
Okay, I think I...
Okay? And so in the right-hand column it says, I cancel my need to be right and to make up another story out of these brain cells to hallucinate proof that my conclusions, my fear and hostility-based story, my reality is true. So go ahead and do that release. And also on the worksheet a little bit higher up, we went right by it, there's a reminder that if I'm in pain, my thinking is in error. So I just gently remind myself of that with another breath.
And I'm trying to think of what fear-based hostility story is it that's not true? I guess that I can't watch them.
Any story you create that's based in fear or hostility is not true. At best, it's only a fraction of the whole big picture. So don't go down a rabbit hole trying to chase that. Just do that as a release. I cancel my need to be right. That's all this really is, right? I cancel my need to be right. And now here's the specifics. Because I keep looking at what I think I've seen and heard and what I remember, and I use it to create a fear or hostility-based story about life. And I cancel my need to do that. That's all. I don't need to track it down into the specifics.
Well, what was noticing for me is that I couldn't, in that moment, like, I'm Blotto. What is the story? What am I doing? You know, it's like I need to be reminded, and I think it's...
I'll remind you what the story is. The story is, if you do this, you'll be in danger. You'll be convicted. That's a false story.
Okay.
I cancel my need to keep thinking the negative thought that I'm thinking in any worksheet that is producing the negative emotion that I don't want to feel. I cancel my need to keep thinking that thought, whatever it is. In this case, your thought is, if I watch these videos, I'll be convicted of my errors. And
Right,
so you're just canceling your need to feel that that's the truth.
Okay. I want to say that when you say that and I hear that, then I can contact a small part of my child that, a part of a small child that is like incredibly relieved to even hear that thought as a possibility. It's like really? I'm not bad, evil, or wicked. Is that a possibility? You know, it's like I can feel that. I can feel that kid going, oh my God, maybe there's hope for me. You know,
well, that's the absolute essence of the truth of all of us. And so breathe into that.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then move to step 5.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. When upset, my perception is built out of corrupt data driven by my goal, which is to be able to watch and apply these videos in my life and heal. It is a limiting picture constructed from 9 bits. By canceling my goal, my replicate mind's reality collapses, giving me direct contact with the denied, dissociated parts of my carbon-based memory that protects and blames others for its content. By holding love, conscious, active, and present, I choose to collapse my mind's lies by only canceling my goal. For 1C, myself, to watch, to be able to watch.
And apply the information from those videos to heal.
I'm just really upset. It's just amazing. It's shocking me. I mean, really, I want to cry. It's like I'm...
Okay, well, so let some of that happen and keep the breath moving and just keep moving. Don't go down the rabbit hole until after you've finished the worksheet. If there's a rabbit hole that needs to be gone down with feeling, you can do that. You can have a EFT tapping session or a crying session after you finish. So just notice these energies. Go ahead.
I invite beloved Jesus, and I've never asked for beloved Jesus before. Not once. And then Rukukucha to incline me toward healing. Restore me
to my awareness of my newborn essence of love.
Newborn essence of love. Heal my denial and capacity to degenerate my emotion of fear. And help me open a direct conscious relationship with and gently remove the denied, dissociated, projected parts of my carbon-based memory.
Okay, so breathe and close your eyes if it's comfortable doing that, and just silently inside your own mind say what I'm going to say out loud. Make this a little meditation. I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself. I specifically cancel my goal in this worksheet to be able to watch these videos, apply the information, and heal and move forward. And I ask to be shown the hidden part of my own mind that's actually creating this upset. I put my conscious logical mind on the shelf for now, and I put myself in the most open, allowing space I can as I gently repeat, I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my thought that I'm going to be convicted and damaged and broken. I cancel the specific goal in this worksheet. I put my conscious logical mind on the shelf for now. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, past, present, or future, including myself. And with each softening breath, I put myself in the most open, allowing space I can, and I just trust that anything that comes into my mind is going to be part of what I need to see to begin to heal here and move forward. And just breathe and soften and watch. And if it goes to an earlier time in your life, go there and see how old you are, where you are, who else is there, and what's happening. And breathe and soften. Let these energies move through you, whether it's energy that feels like pain in your stomach or fogginess in your head. Just breathe and soften. And trust that anything that comes to your mind, physically, mentally, or emotionally, is going to be part of what you need to see to begin to heal here and move forward. So breathe and soften, gently repeating, I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself. I specifically cancel the goal in this worksheet. I put my conscious logical mind on the shelf, and I ask to be shown the hidden part of my own mind that's actually creating this fear. Just breathe and soften and allow. And stay with that, gently repeating that until you feel something shift or fade, or you get a profound insight from a dynamic from earlier in your life. Or thirdly, you just recognize that this mind of yours is just going to spin and go nowhere for now. When one of those three things happens, then take a nice deep cleansing breath and scan your body and notice what's the strongest emotion or the strongest physical sensation you're aware of right now, and put that in 6A. Keep the breath moving. Let me know when you're ready to move forward by scanning your body and noticing the strongest emotion or the strongest physical sensation. And keep that in 6A.
Okay, so lots of things going on as I was going through that, but like little guilty Doug child, you know, and I was aware I need beloved Jesus. I need beloved Jesus' love. I need his acceptance in a way that I've never felt that kind of dependency. In a sense, it's like I'm a little kid. I need him. I believe he can help me. I want him to help me. And I just want to fall into his arms. I want him to love me and unconditional acceptance. And that was the strongest feeling in me. I just need him. I need him to, you know, hold me. I need him to love me. I need him to say I'm not bad. I'm not guilty. And I was like trying to kind of like, well, what the hell happened that I feel so bad and guilty? But I couldn't really quite get there. But I did get this, what I just told you, and then I got another important piece for me, which just flashed in there, is, you know, one of the current really serious fears I have. I can just see it and feel it so deeply. It's like this all helped me see why I'm afraid, I'm terrified that Diane is not going to accept me. She's going to go back to not accepting me. You know, it's like all the fear and pain I felt when I felt like she didn't accept me all of a sudden. It's like that's all the same dynamic. It's all the same thing. And it was like, oh my God, that's big for me to know. So I'm just Diane won't accept me. You know, a fear of that.
All right, so stop the talk for a minute and take a breath. And let it go and scan your body. What is the strongest emotion you're aware of right now?
Strongest emotion. I want to say that I feel two things at once. I feel pain and guilt, just guilt. I'm bad. I'm wrong. And at the same time, I feel a strong emotional relief, acceptance, love. You know, like
so
I'm
just
okay.
Put that in there. Quit all the analysis,
okay.
And write in 6A, pain, guilt, relief. Just write that down. Pain, guilt, relief. And then take a breath, and let's move to 6C.
That's great. Pain, guilt,
and
relief.
6C is, I ask to be shown a time when I have violated this goal for myself of being able to apply tools and heal and move forward. And just throw that open to beloved Jesus or Holy Spirit to help you see when you are blocking yourself from learning tools, applying them, and moving forward.
Oh, jeez. I can feel a lot of them in there, but I'm having trouble bringing any specific one to mind.
You don't need them. Just make the statement, throw it open. We don't want to get stuck going down a rabbit hole. We want to move through the worksheet.
Okay.
There have been many times in your life in the past, and they'll come to you, and you can tap or breathe or do worksheets on them as they come up. But for now, in this worksheet, just make the request from, beloved Jesus or Holy Spirit to show you times when you block yourself from using tools to heal and move forward.
Okay. I just wrote yes and yeah, and a little bit. Okay. Yeah. Show me. 160. Show me. Show me. Okay.
And then in the little box where it says draw your feelings now, it asks you to make a commitment to love and to living a human life And in order to help accomplish that, it asks you to do a mass canceling of all the times you've ever wanted anybody in your life to apply tools and heal and move forward.
That I've ever wanted anyone else to do that, right?
Yes, yes, yourself or anyone else. That's going to be a big one for you.
Oh my God!
The mass canceling of all the times you've ever wanted anyone to use tools on themselves and heal and move forward. And if some people come to mind, you can put their initials on that line, or you can just put your own and ask to be shown and ask to be given assistance in canceling, a mass canceling of any time you've ever wanted that from somebody, whether it's parents or caregivers or friends or lovers or whatever.
I have a long list, and it's just coming out, yes.
And then you can move to number 7. Go ahead.
Including missionary clients. It's like in a way I see that, as a missionary, in a way that also fits into the category. I wanted the people I was teaching to accept these tools. Jesus is your Savior. This book is true. This is, the way to get your salvation, and heal. It's interesting for me to add that into the mix of all these other people like Diane and every other person, Dad, Mom, my grandma, it's like, okay, all right, let's go on.
It's everyone.
Just a note. Yeah, it's just like, oh my God, everybody I've ever wanted to heal. Everybody.
Yep. And it's not a coincidence that's coming up at a time when you're doing a worksheet on your resistance to healing.
I know.
Because, as Michael Rice would say, it's all smoke and mirrors. We're never upset for the reason we think we are. Course in Miracles and Way of Mastery. It's all an inside job. So just breathe into that, and let's move to number 7.
Just trying to write down, it's all smoke and mirrors. I want to write that. Oh, smoke and mirrors. Oh my God, that seems so profound to me. It's all about myself. That's just really, really intense. Okay. Really intense. That's just so huge. That's just so huge. Okay. I want to make a note to self when I hear this to come back to that and look at it. Oh, so big. Okay. All right. Come to where now? Go to 7.
Number 7.
Principle of the universe is by giving. I first get the original, which I always want to, every time I read that, I think I want to ask about what does that mean better. I have an idea that it means, if I run anger through me, I give it to myself before I give it to someone else. But I always think, I want to call in the show and ask about that, maybe not to expand on it right now, but, like in this moment and in this context, it's like all the people I ever wanted to heal, it's because I want to heal. It's like, that's just... Or
you're generating upset that you think is about people in your life that you love, that you want them to heal, and they're not healing, whether it's your mission people or your other people, right? You think it's about them. It's really about you. It's really about your own fear and resistance. So you're generating that fear and resistance about you. It's in your system, and you get the full force of it, and then you project it into your mind's image of these other people. But you have to have it being a disruptive force in you first. And it's always about your own frustration with yourself. You're never frustrated with anybody outside of you. You're just generating the frustration within you because you want things to be different than they are in ways you can't change. That's how we generate frustration. And then we get the impact, we get the effect, the consequence of holding that frustration in our system. That's what that line means.
Repeat the whole full sentence. It's always about my own frustration with myself, and then there was more to that sentence.
And because you don't want to look at your own issues, because you don't want to do the work that would help you heal and move forward, you create an image in your mind of somebody else having that problem. And you generate the frustration and the irritability. Why won't they do this? Why won't they? And I'm generating frustration or anger or irritability about it, but it's never about them. It's always an inside job. And as Michael says, I might send my anger or frustration out towards them. I might, get a UPS driver or a FedEx delivery person to deliver it to them, and they may not be home for delivery. But I have to be the one who's holding it. There's that old adage that the vessel in which anger and resentment is stored always sustains more damage than those upon whom it is poured.
That's a great line, and I don't think I've heard it. Has it been in the common vernacular of our,
yeah,
the way you just...
I've said it many times, but that doesn't mean you've heard it before because you haven't been on every show or whatever. But the point is that I'm holding anger in me. Before I give it to somebody else, I'm sustaining more damage by getting angry at someone than they are, even if I yell and scream at them.
That's so profound. I mean, just the way I'm seeing it right now is it's really like, oh man, if society could understand that, like if culture could understand that, if that one idea, it's just, oh man.
Yeah, but imagine, leave society out of it. Imagine how your life would change if you got it.
Thank you. Yes.
And it would change in ways that right now you have aligned with scariness, fear. You're creating a fear around how your life would change if you got it. You really got it.
I don't think I understand.
Don't worry about it. Let's move on and finish this. We need to get to the goal that you're going to create for yourself, a loving goal based on this worksheet. And I'm going to recommend that you do at least 2 more worksheets on the guilt that came up, and or 1 worksheet on that guilt that came up in the early going, and a EFT tapping session where you're visualizing yourself at that younger age being held lovingly by this beloved Jesus character you're talking about, whatever that means to you. That you breathe and soften and use the acupressure technique of the EFT tapping as you visualize yourself at that younger age being completely embraced and accepted by this loving Jesus. And watch what that stirs up. And make a commitment to do at least a 10-minute tapping session visualizing that.
Okay. That sounds like a great goal.
And then the benefit to a goal like that is that it's specific and time limited, and you can know before you go to bed tonight if you accomplished it or not. And if you didn't, you can just cancel it or move it back over into plans and not create unnecessary, unfulfillable stress or unresolvable stress in your system.
Okay. Yeah, that was definitely a successful worksheet, and my fear is like more like a 3 or a 2, which seems impossible. But nonetheless, I feel a lot less afraid.
All right. So,
oh my God.
Do you have a question or comment, or would you like to open it up for question or comments from anybody who's on the call?
Yeah, I would like to do that. Question or comment? I'm just amazed. This is huge. This is really big for me, and it's so big because it came from such an unexpected place. You know, like such an unexpected place. Not something that I thought was even big at all. And it resonates when you said something like that before. You said something about Michael tells people to take a little worksheet, then it turns into something big. It's like this list led somewhere I would have never expected. But anyway, that's my comment. And yeah, I'm going to be quiet and see if there are other comments. I'm happy to hear them. This will be informative.
Okay. Well, there are quite a few people on the call. If you've been listening, if you have any questions, comments for Doug and or questions about this worksheet process, press 1 on your phone, those of you that are already in the chat room or the phone bank, 563-999-3581. One of the things that I like to do with these worksheets is something we got to do here, which is make sure we keep it lined up with the thought, the dynamic, the emotion, and the goal. Susan, welcome.
Hi, Doug.
Hi, Susan.
So I wanted to ask you, you're feeling afraid to listen to some tapes that you got. And I wasn't clear about, I assume they're self-help tapes, that if you listen to them, something is going to happen between you and Diane or something. Could you go and mess around a little bit in that part, just what you were doing there that scared you so much?
Well,
No, wait, Susan.
Yeah.
Let's just speak clearly. Talk a little bit, Doug, about this dynamic that you were using to generate fear. Not that scared you so much, right? It's not that this thing scared him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Doug, do you want to explain that just a little bit to her?
Okay,
what the videos are?
I watched a 20-minute video by Barbara O'Neill on YouTube, and I realized when I watched it how many times I've watched her content and how valuable I think it is, how amazing a person I think she is, and every time I've ever done that, I've thought, oh, I need to watch more of her stuff. I need to look at into this, and then I never do it. I never do it. And I was like, why I would use a 4-letter word there, haven't I done it? Why haven't I do it? Why didn't I do it? And that's what started my investigation into this, because I was just like, what's up with that? And then I thought, you could do a worksheet to try and figure that out. It's like, that's all that happened. It seemed like a small matter, more or less, to me, but it really isn't a small matter at all.
So if you listen to them, something would happen. Something. Yeah,
His thought,
if I
listen, Doug, just clarify for her that with the thought you have in the worksheet, your thought was, if you watch these videos, you will be convicted of all of your serious errors. You'll be exposed for the evil, diabolical person that you are.
Oh.
That was the thought in the worksheet.
I'll have to change, and I will be convicted. I will be convicted of my errors.
I don't know if I should have called in because it's sort of as if I'm doing Dr. Tim's work here. But if you did that work and you'd be convicted of your evil, then something would happen.
Well, I would have to change. I would have to change my diet. I would have to change my lifestyle. I would have to change my thinking. I would have to start listening to my body. I would have to, do all the things that she advocates we should do to improve our health. I
And then if you did all that, what's the scary thing that would happen?
Well, having to do all of that from a place of guilt and conviction, having a sense, I think, having a sense that I need to do all that out of a sense of guilt and conviction, not optional, not, oh, great, this is a path to better health, I think I'll do it. More, it was an overwhelming sense of conviction that I would have to do it. I would be convicted of being guilty. It's like of course it's not about the videos. It's about all this other stuff. But it's like a sense. I would have to be a completely different person than maybe the one that my normal appetite-rich human being would want to be. Like no more cake, no more pizza, whatever.
I can relate to that.
And those are the things that are coming to your mind consciously, right? And those are easy. That's low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
And yet, if you pursue this work, you're likely to find, and this is what Susan is hinting at, a different level of fear. And when that other level of fear becomes crystal clear consciously, it will lose much of its, if not all of its power over you. And the answer to Susan's questions is, you don't know right now what that fear is. But that's why we do the tapping session, visualizing being held lovingly by Jesus, and the other worksheet about guilt. So you invite that stuff to bubble up out of the or subconscious into the clear, bright light of conscious awareness.
Would like I'll be condemned to hell? Would like I'll be condemned to hell be part of that? Because that, when you're saying all this, I'm like, behind my guilt and evil ways and sin, and it's like this is a microcosm of saying you're wrong, you need to do it differently. And the guilt that I felt as a kid, I still don't have it all at all. But it's like, the driving force is, if I don't do it right, I'm bad, wrong, and I didn't do it right, and so I'll have to go to hell. Well, that's just what comes to my mind. You'll go to hell. You'll be condemned to hell.
That could be. And if it's at the root of this, you'll see it and feel it in a way as you did several different things that were being revealed to you in this worksheet, where you said, oh my gosh, I've never seen it this way before. So right now you have this intellectual thought that maybe it's, I'm afraid I'll go to hell. If you keep working with it and you stay open and not just think about it the way we're thinking about it now and discussing it, but doing it on a worksheet, doing it in a journaling session, doing it in an EFT tapping session, and inviting it to surface, you'll have some realizations about what's the real thing you're fearing and what is the belief you're holding that you're using to generate that fear. Again, understanding that a belief is nothing than a really well-rehearsed thought that I'm giving high value and priority to.
What I can see is that, and I just wrote down, I am terrified I will have to go to hell, and that's in such sharp contrast. Like, I just went to a whole 3 days of seeing these people who had near-death experiences talking, and 3 of them had the experience of, like, they were on their way to hell, and then they had the thought about Jesus, and then he pulled them out of hell, and, it's like, and I've never felt like that. I've never felt this consciously, literally. I have felt, oh, well, I wonder if part of the reason people end up down there is because they're so afraid they're going to go down there. It's because they, it's like I say, you don't have to go to hell. I mean, Jesus, the world isn't, it doesn't want to throw you in fire and brimstone. I mean, no part of the universe wants to do that. That's been my previous experience. But what I see is, in this moment, that's covering over a part of me much earlier on or whatever, that was actually, in fact, terrified, guilty, wrong, feeling convicted. I'm not good enough. I can't do this right. I'm bad. I'm afraid I'm going to go to hell. I'm terrified I'm going to go to hell. So in a way, watching these videos convicts me of my wrongdoing. Just in general, my wrongdoing with diet or whatever, nutrition, whatever. It's like, so I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear about how wrong I am.
So it isn't just that it's too much trouble. At some point you said, oh, that would be a lot of trouble. But you mentioned Diane, too. If you go to hell, do you miss out on being connected to Diane? Where did she figure into that?
Well, I just want to mention that when we were at 2A for the first time in my life, and I said this earlier, I was reluctant to do that. Like, I don't want to experience the physical, mental, emotional symptoms of healing, and that was a total mystery to me. But right now, I can connect that that's because some part of my mind thinks if that happened, I would go to hell. The learning of the truth. I choose to love truth and willingly face and process out. Well, to learn the truth is to learn how wrong I am, how evil I am, how inadequate I am. In this case, it's like how much my diet's failing, but in the bigger picture. To learn the truth is to recognize, all these stories about how I'm not making the cut. Therefore, I will go to hell. Now, the thing about Diane was a totally separate thing that simply it's more like I realized that I realized when I felt in this worksheet a need to be embraced by Jesus and just comforted by him and, told that I'm okay, I'm not bad and guilty. That just resonated how I have been in pain when I felt like my beloved didn't really accept me and he wasn't really accepting me. Okay, that's all. It didn't really embrace me as I was because I was inadequate. That was just big for me.
So you think that truth is that you're bad, but we're taught we are loved, so that isn't the truth.
No, it isn't. It's just a belief that he downloaded when he was very young.
And we'll give Michael a moment to dial in, but welcome Doug and Susan.
Yeah, Doug did an incredible worksheet, and I got all enthralled and probably put a monkey wrench into the process. But Dr. Tim opened it up, and I started asking some questions. And I hope it didn't derail your work, Doug.
I can't see it as having done anything other than expand my work and awareness, honestly.
Good. Great. Well, it's brave of you to come on and to have those deep feelings and be able to say words that to me are very tender, important words that, I've got my own resonating going on here with the work you just did.
Well, then I guess it served a purpose for you too. It certainly is serving a purpose for me.
So did I hear that it was based on thinking you were wrong or bad?
It was based on me. It started out as a curiosity experience to try and understand why, when I listened to this woman, Barbara O'Neill, who talks about health and wellness, why, when I listen to her, every time I hear her or hear a clip of her, I tend to not listen to it all the way through, or more to the point, I say to myself, I need to listen to her, and then I never do. And so like I was like, why don't I ever follow up with the determination I tell myself I need to listen to her. She has truth for me. Why don't I ever listen to it? And that's how it started, and then it turned into a whole process of recognizing that it's, well, my thought was just to say that, 1D is, if I watch, I will have to change my ways. I will be convicted of my errors. And that just led all down a whole path of guilt. And
so is it that you maybe unconsciously or consciously know that whatever she's going to bring up is something that you need to look at, and you're wanting to avoid that?
absolutely, yes. I would. It'll convict me of my errors, where I'm not eating properly, where I'm not, where I need to improve, where, and it's more than just. It's a comprehensive ideology of how to. Or ideology is the wrong word. It's a comprehensive body of truth about how one improves one's health and well-being that I am convicted within myself is truthful information, that she is without guile, and her presentation is so beautiful that it sort of brings me to tears in this moment, a propensity towards tears. And yet I never watch it. I never do it. I never engage in it, and it's because then I'm going to have to change. It's like she's a powerful change agent for me.
Right. And, there again, you're talking about, like taking care of your body and eating better and all of that. And if you do that, you're going to go to a higher vitality, which always means then that you go to a lower depth. And it's like, why do I want to go to a higher vitality? So I have to look at the deeper garbage. I can keep it buried. I don't have to look at it, but it runs us even if we don't look at it.
Fantastic observation, Jeannie.
That's great. Mm.
And the way you put it, if you go to a higher, level, you'll be able to go to a lower depth, or you'll have to go to a lower depth.
Correct. Because, see, we have an automatic suppress mechanism built in that, if there is something that we are not vital enough to deal with, then it's going to suppress it. It's not going to let it come forward, because it could actually kill you if something comes forward that you are not vital enough to handle. I was trying to think of what the scripture was, that the Lord won't put more on you than you're able to bear. And so what that means is, your system keeps it down if you are not vital enough to deal with it. So as you get more vital, Michael draws on the board when he's talking about this, a vitality meter from 1 to 10. Well, if you're only at a 4 vitality, you're never going to see your 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 issues. But as you start, doing your inner work, you're eating better, you're taking care of yourself physically, you're doing all the right things, and you move up to a 5 and a 6, well, now you can see those 5 and 6 issues. Now, the 7, 8, 9, 10 are still buried, but you're now vital enough to look at the 5 and 6. And then as you get even more vital and move up to, say, 7 or 8, then you can look at those issues because you're vital enough to handle it. And so, it's sort of like a lot of people, when stuff starts to come up, they'll automatically go and eat junk food or candy or, sugar, some kind of, something that will bring their vitality back down because, they say, oh, well, I feel better when I do that. Well, what it is, it brings you back down. You don't have to look at what's getting ready to come up. And so, yes, as you get more vital, you can go deeper into the things that you haven't been able to deal with before. And that's also when people go, oh, my gosh, I thought I was doing all the right things, and now I feel horrible, and look at all these things that are in my face and hit me in the head and all this. Same thing happens when you're in a relationship. Say that you are just at a 5 vitality, and you're in relationship with somebody that's at a 5 vitality. Now, together, you're a 10. And so when you're together, the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 comes up, and that's why it's like, the honeymoon's over. I don't feel this unless I'm with you. You're the one bringing this up for me. And so, but it's because together you're more vital. And so if we just realize, that together, when this stuff comes up, we are vital enough to handle it together. But if we move out, push that person away and get rid of them, move out on our own, then we drop back down to a 5, and then we don't look at it, and we think, oh, see, everything's great when you're not around. That's where they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder, and familiarity breeds contempt. But what it is that when you're far away, then that other dies down, and you don't have to look at it. But then when you get back in their presence, it comes back up again, because together you're more vital. And so there are a lot of things that impact our vitality. And so, listening to this woman and, moving into the direction of taking better care of yourself physically or whatever, it's going to make you more vital, and stuff's going to come up. And, we can say, well, I don't want to go there, I don't want to look at it. But it is in there, whether we look at it or not. And, it's the Creator doesn't want us to destroy ourselves. And those things that are in us that doesn't belong actually destroys us physically, mentally, emotionally. And so it's going to run us, it's going to send out that message, hey, this is in me and I really need to look at it, and you're going to draw in another person, if not that same person, to show it to you again. And usually what happens, though, is we say, when you come around, then I feel horrible, so I'm just going to get rid of you. And then that means we get to pack it back down, and, it's going to come up again and again and again. Did that sound familiar?
It sounds too familiar, and I have to say that when you I want to clarify one thing, and
Sure.
also hear Michael's whatever, both of you on this, but it's like I've always understood for a long, ever since first coming to Heartland, that as your vitality increases, you will have access to more and more high-level traumas, because you'll have the vitality to deal with them. The one statement I'll make ahead of the thing that I think creates fear, brings up my fear, is that if you have the vitality, you'll be able to deal with it. I want to emphasize that. But what I realize is the way you put it is, that I've never heard it before, is if you go to a higher vitality, you will have to go.
Exactly.
And I've never seen it that way. I've always seen it as, there'll be an opportunity, you could handle it, but right now, and that applies exactly to why I don't want to listen to her. It's like some part of me knows if I listen to her and raise my vitality, I will have to deal with stuff I don't want to deal with. And
right.
Is that the
Breathe,
hell
Doug.
you're talking about, Doug?
Breathe,
what,
Doug.
pardon?
Breathe.
Okay, breathing. Somebody asked a question.
Susan,
I
what
asked
was
if it was.
Go ahead,
If
Susan.
that was I asked if that was the hell you were talking about. We sort of lost the thread, so maybe that's.
Maybe so. That's the very, very enlightening question, Susan. The hell that I thought I was talking about, hell as in fire and brimstone, hell as a little kid. If I'm not good at, I'll go to hell. But you could also say, there's just so much in that. There's so much in what you just said. It's like, what? Because it ties back into what I also said earlier in the show, where I said that to my awareness, when I went to that life after death thing and people are talking about their near-death experiences, and 5 out of the 16 said, well, I was on my way to hell, and then Jesus came along and saved me. When I hear that, I think, here's the thought I always think is, were you on your way to hell because you believed you were going to be on your way to hell? It's like, I don't think the universe is really sending anybody to hell. Maybe it is, but, that's always the thought I've had, is no. But the thing that was revealed in this worksheet process is that there is a part of me deeper down that actually is terrified of going to hell.
Well, that's what they do with little kids, is they terrify them with that image. Totally, completely, absolutely, 100% against what Yeshua said. Woe unto you who should harm one hair on the head of this child. And children spend their whole lives in the harm that's beat into them by some preacher who has not done their own work and is sending these kids to hell. Metaphorically.
Telling them they're going to go to hell. Yeah, I was contacting Michael in this worksheet. Oh my God, actually, I'm a little kid. I am terrified, and therefore I'm condemning myself all over the place for all the things I can't be and do right, and I'm afraid I'm going to go to hell. Now, later on, I completely hid that away. And when I was at the, workshop, I was like, yeah, well, I don't know why those guys went to hell. Everybody else went to heaven. It was actually 3 out of 16. And it's like why did they go to hell first? It's like it had to be something to do with them, right? And I don't think the universe sent them there, but of course they say, it's externalized. Some guy with a pitchfork, whatever, as you say, has something to do with it. But the truth is, I actually have a part of me that's really afraid of that. So
yeah, it's called a power person dynamic. Remember the 3 things that happen in order for a power person dynamic to be installed in someone's mind. And it might be time to go back through and do the whole codependence workshop again. The 3 things that happen. If somebody has more power over me than I did, usually a parent, not always. In this case, it would be a preacher. They were not functioning as love, terrorizing that so many preachers do. This is not love. I don't care what your motivation is. This is not love, to terrify a child. And then the child perceives it as survival. Oh my God, I'm going to go to hell. I'm going to die. I'm being told by this power person. Now that power person dynamic is instilled in the mind. Preacher dies and he goes to his own hell. He's been teaching it. He's going to get to experience it and live it out. Not that there's one created by any creator called love. It's just silly. But he's going to get to do his thing, and if he holds a deep enough belief system and he goes through a near-life experience, and it's not a near-death experience. Most people are already dead. It's a near-life experience that happens when carbon-based memory shuts up with all of its hells and all of its stories and all its power person dynamics. And then this person, I'm supposed to be on my way to hell, and then Jesus is going to come and save me. So what plays out in brain cells? Exactly the story that's been told. And it's all a fabrication.
Yeah,
Yeshua says, you must forgive from your heart, from your unconscious. Remove that hell. Remove that power person dynamic. And notice that if the power person isn't there to do it, you do it to yourself. Hell was the Gehenna for anybody who's got a different belief system. Go back and look at the truth and the facts of it. Hell was a fiery place. Gehenna was a fiery place outside of the city where they burned garbage and where poor people had their bodies burned because they couldn't afford burial plots. That was the hell that they talked about. And they used it as a threat with little kids. If you don't behave, I'm going to take you to the Gehenna. And it worked really well, so they made one up for big people. It's all a fraud and a lie. Love did not create a hot, fiery place to go to for hell. It's a metaphor for what we do to ourselves and the acidic conditions we create when we live in hostility or fear and refuse to live in full relationship with love as we're designed to, and we refuse to face and forgive the dynamics within us that separate us.
I've long thought, and I'm having insight, I've long thought that the people in hell, it's like the external world teaches that they're there because of something they did. It's actually they're there because of their own belief structure and their lack of willingness to forgive and connect with the divine that's immediately available. And these examples of near-life experiences are them having that moment. It's like they have the moment of, I can connect with love instead. And then it takes the form that immediately frees them. Jesus comes and takes care of it for them. It's like, or whatever, it's like that's their experience. Another thing I want to say is that I can say this now. There's been this unspoken question that I haven't really wanted to bring up, and I don't want to go on unless it's where we go. But I have often thought. And you and I have had conversations about it one time when we were playing blocks here at my house, what, it's like I've been trying to understand.
Breathe.
I thought in the past that you're too hard on quote unquote churchianity. And right now I see another layer of why. Another layer of that piece, because I literally am feeling the experience
It's an atrocity.
And
It's an atrocity that's been committed against millions of children, and it's an horrendous piece of insanity.
yeah, and it's nobody's fault. It's not. We're saying they're not guilty at fault at blame. They just don't understand, and therefore, in their effort to in their locked up state.
Well, let's back up a little bit and let's listen to what Yeshua says. People come to him who are, Jesus, Jesus, praise Jesus, Jesus, my Savior, Jesus, Jesus, and he says to them, why do you call me Savior and you don't do what I tell you to do? Those preachers that are preaching hell will tell you there's nothing you can do. Yeshua says, why don't you do what I told you to do? And what he told them to do was to clean out their own unconscious minds. You must forgive from your heart the wrongs of your brother. And so he says to those who come to him praising his name, yay, yay, Jesus, Jesus, oh man, let's be right up there on the Baptist pulpit and listen to it all. Terrorizing children. And Yeshua says, you don't want to do the work I told you to do. And with one particular group that he explains it, what they need to do, half of the disciples that were there said, who can hear this? Too hard a saying, and they left and they never came back. They're the ones that are out there preaching a hell and somebody else is going to fix it for you. When Yeshua clearly said, why do you not do what I told you to do? Don't pretend you're playing with me if you're not doing what I told you to do. Just because you come calling my name doesn't mean I know anything about you. Get away from me, he says.
What was the talk that he did? What was the sermon? And what was the context for that story?
It's a passage where they ask him, what do we need to do to please God? And he gives them an Aramaic idiom. He says, you must eat my body and drink my blood. Now, if those words were, as we misunderstand them today, were about taking communion, why would anybody say too hard a saying? Who can handle that? And leave. Well, what? Hey, take a little wine and wafers. You might even get a little high. Who would reject that? He was not saying take communion. He was saying, you must emulate what I am doing. You must do the work that I'm doing. And they said, yeah, wait a minute, Charlie, wait a minute. You mean I have to go in and I have to face all of this generational hatred and the way that I beat my wife every other night because I have such internal pain and rage? I have to face that and work through it? Too hard a saying. I'm leaving. I'm out of here. The next guy, oh, what are you talking about? You mean, Yeshua, I can't go and get into bed every other night with the neighbor's wife when I sneak off because my wife is so tired because I beat her so much that she can hardly stay awake and I get to sneak up? You mean I have to stop that? I have to deal with it? Too hard a saying. Who can hear that? I'm out of here. Yeah. Who wants to do the work? So that's the context. They ask him, what do we have to do to please God? And he says, eat my body, drink my blood, short form.
Okay.
Do emulate what I have taught you to do. You've got to do your work. You must face in your heart and forgive everything that you've been putting into your brain's image of everybody else, including the hell that you were told about. You've got to forgive that from your heart. And, the person who is on their way to hell and gets rescued by Yeshua, that's a great metaphor for the truth. If you actually meet Yeshua on the road and you do the work he tells you to do, he has saved you in the sense of the real world where we have generational hate and fear and rage and guilt and grief and drama and trauma. He's said, here are the tools. Here's how you do it. Not, I'm going to come fix everything for you. Why do you not do the work I told you to do? He says, you got to do it. But it's
and I'm going to...
the gate, another passage where he says, the gate is narrow and few will be those that find it. And the ones who don't find it are still railing about hell and there's nothing you can do and somebody else has got to fix it for you. And it's a fraud. So if calling a fraud is being hard on churchianity, then I choose purposely, consciously to be hard on Christianity. And it isn't Christianity. It isn't Christianity at all. It uses his name, but as he said, many will come calling my name. Beware of the wolves in sheep's clothing.
And I understand that better now than I ever have. But I have to say also that I feel like, can't we not say that, everybody arrives there from some place, and for a lot of people to, it's such a fine line in a way, it's like there's stuff in my mind I don't understand about it, but, I also want to.
That's what he said, the gate is narrow. It is a fine line. It's a narrow gate, and as he said 2,000 years ago, few will be those that find it.
People who see him initially as their savior are moving into obedience to all he says. As long as that's, they're trying to get to what he said. They're wanting to go there, and they're wanting to, and it's the first experience of some all-embracing, all-accepting being. Their first experience of that, because they were raised with a power person and with the, the preacher who's fire and brimstone and everything, and then they come into awareness, oh, there's this being who has unconditional love for me. It's a valid gateway for many people to enter into the work of this.
Actually, he doesn't have unconditional love for anybody. He does not love anybody. He appears in people's lives as the active presence of love, teaching us that this game of I'm going to find somebody to love me and somebody and I'm going to find somebody to love is all a fraud to distract us. The return is to the return of your created essence as love, and to live from that as he did.
Yeah, that's a reminder I need. I never can have it too many times. Yeah.
And the scriptures, warn us the power of life and death is in our words. In other words, if we misdefine our words, Karl Marx, responsible for more deaths on planet Earth than anybody in history, I suspect. And he says the way that we destroy cultures is change the meaning of their words. So now forgiveness is letting other people off the hook. Love is sexual athletics. And we could go on and on and on down the list. The workshop Aramaicisms, that term is a term that I coined in order to represent the effort to reestablish the actual original meaning of the words of Yeshua in his first century Aramaic context. And if Yeshua sat in most of churchianity today, he'd say that's all Greek to me. Not meaning there aren't people who are making wonderful efforts and are trying, but if you're listening to the Greeks, it's like listening to a bluebird trying to explain quantum physics. That's why the gate's so narrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then of course we tend to do that in human relations, and that's why we want to say I love you, but we really want to say I see the presence of love in you, and I want to be the presence of love with you. That would be better, right?
That's more like it, yeah. I have discovered the truth about my original essence, my created essence, and I realize and understand from the Yeshua's Aramaic words that there is a gateway in the frontal lobes of my brain called Rachma that if I keep open, I get to live as the presence of love in my own body and in the world. Now, as far as I know, there's nowhere in the last 2,000 years outside of the Aramaic, for those who had accurate meanings of the Aramaic, and in many cases, a lot of people who've done Aramaic translations, if you go and talk to them, they were brought up in Western Greek-oriented mythology, pretending to be Yeshua, and so their translations are distorted by that mythology as well.
Yes, one of the things that is, I want to say, I'm trying to further clarify this, and I want to remember to go to something else too. But like when we say I love you, what we really, if we were to say what I just said instead, it would be appropriate to say I see the presence of love in you. The presence of love in me is I want you to help me to open the presence of love in me, and I want to help open the presence of love in you, that we can go towards more love together. That would be an appropriate way to be. But what happens is the honeymoon thing gets clicked in. Somebody resonates love in us, and then we think, oh, they're the source of this love. Now I'm addicted to them. I need to be with them because if I'm not with them, I can't feel this love. And then they betray a goal. I'm just checking my, then they betray a goal, and then we say, well, I guess they weren't that, and then we dump our rage on them, right? That's the end of the honeymoon, right?
That's the relationship based in matching bags of garbage that people call love relationships.
Okay, and where we want to be is in the former place.
I never say, for instance, to Aria or to Jeannie, or I might accidentally say it because of the old brain cells firing, but I don't say I love you. Aria was brought up with, we cherish you, sweetheart. You are awesome, and you are the presence of love, and we cherish you. When I speak to Jeannie, I cherish you. And recognize that if I'm present as the created essence that I am, and I use the word love to describe that, my language is in harmony with truth. And you remember in the scriptures, words. The power of life and death is there. If we misuse words, we have the power to bring in energetic dynamics that will literally kill us.
The power to bring in energy. If we misuse words, we have the power to bring in energy dynamics that will literally kill us. Will you expand on that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's go to the opening words in John. It doesn't say in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh, and the flesh was a man named Yeshua. It says in the beginning was the mind energy, and the mind energy became flesh. I think a thought. That thought becomes a neuropeptide. Literal, measurable in the lab neuropeptide, a molecule. That molecule circulates around in my structure until it finds a cell with a receptor site that matches. It lands on the cell. If I were inside the cell watching that happen, this person thinks a thought, if I could see from the inside of a cell this becoming a neuropeptide landing on this receptor site, what I would see coming through the receptor site would be what I call chemistry. That neuropeptide shows up in the cell as what we ferret out and what in the world of so-called matter we call chemistry. That's what I'd see happening. Mind energy becoming flesh. Two qualities of mind energy. That is that which lifts the system up. They're that which tears the system down. Tear down energy, is what was called sin. When they said the wages of sin is death, that was not some kind of theological threat, God's going to get you for your sins. It was saying that these energetic patterns that you hold and blame others for are energetic patterns that become literal on the level where we believe in chemistry, literal chemistry. And if it's a chemistry that does not support the life of the cell, then the wages of sin is death. The result is the cell dies. Excuse me, I just inhaled a little bit of water. It's caught in my throat. So if I now recognize that and apply forgiveness to that, that is, if I recognize it any time in my life, whether the words and the thoughts and the energy came from myself, from my power person or someone else in the world, if I brought that energy in and it became chemistry in my cell and I hid it from myself, now I have in my unconscious the energy of death. So what's forgiveness about? It's about removing death. It's overcoming, and when was the last generation in your bloodline or mine that I don't have anybody I can point to that I could even imagine ever had the thought of, oh, I'm engaging in an energy that's called sin, an energy that's off the mark, and I am creating cellular deterioration in my structure, so I'm going to take responsibility for this, and I'm going to remove it. Oh, I have this tool Yeshua taught 2,000 years ago called forgiveness. I'm going to remove that energy from my structure and alleviate my whole bloodline from it. I can't point to anybody in my bloodline that could have ever even fathomed having that conversation. And I've never met anybody that has. So if you're the early adopter, what are you going to get to face? Well, at least the 4 generations it's talked about in the scriptures that are in your genes. Every thought, every feeling, every unresolved dynamic of your parents, their parents, their parents, and their parents are in your structure. That's what you're going to have to face. And logically, if it goes back 4 generations, where did the previous 4 generations get theirs? And the previous 4, and the previous 4, and the previous 4. So I need to be aware when I allow myself to go into a peace of mind energy of poverty, of pain, of trauma, of blame, of hatred, of fear, of rage, of guilt, of self-deprecation, self-punishment, or separation from love, and I need to forgive that in order to free myself of it. I don't know anybody in my bloodline that could ever have had that conversation.
Right. And
do you have anybody in yours?
I don't think so.
So then you're the early adopter. Breathe
right.
into it and let it go.
Yes,
and
then that's done. You know, it's done with the parts of it that we can bring through our 9-bit mind. But furthermore, it's done by, most importantly, by grace, by divine intervention as we surrender to that, and that's Ruka, right? The super processor, because otherwise we're not going to be able to handle.
Yeah, my offering is grace has been kept to something mystical and magical, like, well, nobody knows quite what it is, but it's really good. I'd offer that it is literally, as we were told, a gift from the Creator, and it's the ability to change your mind anytime you want. That's all, real simple. It's the ability to change your mind anytime you want. You have free will. If you have set it in your structure, no creator is going to come in and say, you know, you really don't want that. The creator is going to say, you know, that's really not healthy for you, but you got free will, and if you want to hang out with it, that's yours. That's up to you. I'm going to send you some tools. I'm going to show you how to change it. But if you choose to hold on to it, that's going to be up to you. If you choose not to change your mind, then don't pretend that you're following Yeshua.
Yes, you have to have agency, and you have to change your mind, which means you need to be willing to surrender everything in all those generations, everything in you that's unlike love, to love. You need to be willing to surrender that all. To me, that's like, so are we saying, you know, the ability to change my mind, that's where it starts. That's how it works. It's like once the decision I make, the ability to change my mind.
Well, actually, you'll never make that decision. Unless it's in your genes, you'll never make that decision. Because decisions are just something, an automatic operation of the mind. It's going to have to be the awakening and the power of choice, and then to have the tools with which to do it. And the only person in all of history that I know of that knew exactly how to collapse the perceptual constructs of the mind that are based in hostility or fear, showing the hidden underbelly that needs healing, is this man Yeshua with his tool of forgiveness.
Right.
That's why I've dedicated my life to teaching it and making it available globally.
Right. Yes. So
that's why I've dedicated every bit of time, intelligence, money, and energy that I have to refining it and teaching it and making it available and supporting people and actually being able to use it. That's how important it is. But for me, that's how important it is.
Right.
Are you breathing?
Yeah, well, no.
No, didn't think so. So whenever I hold my breath, spontaneously, automatically, unconsciously, there's something that's ready to surface that I'm hiding from myself. And that means that I'm now stuck in unforgiveness. Remember, there's a passage the Greeks translated out of their horror and their insanity. The Greeks translated as, the unforgivable sin is the denial of the Holy Spirit. There's no unforgivable sin. That's just plain Greek silliness. Do you have any idea how many people have literally lived their lives believing they're going to go to hell because they committed the unforgivable sin? Over the years, I've met many people, and they are, devout religious people who are, I know that I'm going to go to hell because I committed the unforgivable sin. I was 15, I was 18, I was 22, and I denied the Holy Spirit. And now I know I'm going to go, and they've lived, I'm talking about people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s that have lived their whole lives knowing they're going to go to hell for eternity because of that. And it's a total silly-ass mistranslation. The denial of ruka is because ruka, which is the breath, is the only power that can move the energy of error, that energy that's off the mark, within us and remove it. The denial of the breath, stopping the breath, leaves us in unforgiveness, leaves us stuck in the very pattern that we don't want to look at. That's the denial of the Holy Spirit. It's not about some disembodied spirit being. The scriptures don't, in the Aramaic, it doesn't talk about God sending out his spirit, some disembodied spirit, something. It says the Creator sent out his breath. And that's what moves the energy in us. I don't know how to move energy. I don't even know how to raise my arm. Do you know how to raise your arm?
No.
I don't. I don't know anybody that does. But there's something in me that does know how to do it. And because I have free will, follows my command. Ask and you receive.
Can we call that grace?
Well, I wouldn't call that grace. I'd call that free will. But if I've asked for, let's say I bought into the Greek misinterpretation, and I have asked to go to hell when I die because I committed the unforgivable sin, grace would be the ability to change my mind.
And then when we change our mind, just changing our mind doesn't remove the 4 generations of non-being content. It opens the gateway for that to be changed, right? It's like...
That's the starting point.
All right.
It might take 77 times 70 worksheets to work through it, yeah.
And we can't even... again, I'm saying this not to assert it as true, but to try and refine and check my understanding. But then at that point, we can't even then bring it all through. 77 times 70 worksheets isn't going to do it. It's that 77 times worksheet plus Ruka does it. It's like the grace of God, or, well, I'm calling it grace.
Yes. Yeah, but the ability to change your mind, yeah.
The ability to change our mind opens the gateway for that force, which is proper for humans, however we frame it or see it, to then come in and as much as we're willing and as we build our vitality and we continue on the path, it'll taking away those layers, right?
Exactly.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
So for me then,
and there comes a point, if you get there, where you'll be breathing and you'll be out of your mind. And that's what, and I don't know if you've been listening, how much you've been listening to the show lately, if you've heard me talk about it, but that's the quantum still point, and that takes everything to a whole other level.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have. Yes. Okay.
Still point puts people in process, but ultimately what I'm realizing is needed is that process, and then if for even just a second, you got to be out of your mind, because it's what the scriptures called the mind of man, which was also defined as Satan by Yeshua. In that passage where he's talking to Peter, he says, "Get thee behind me, Satan." And he describes exactly what Satan is: for you think in the mind of man rather than the plan of God. It's that mind that holds this whole insane generational structure in place. What I'm observing with people who do the quantum still point is that they are able to let go of the mind of man. Doesn't mean all their work is done. They still have their work to do. Ease and grace with which it's done is a quantum leap forward from the struggle of trying to do it while carbon-based memory, the mind of man, is holding as true what it has been locked into or lost in.
Which is a lie.
Which is a lie. And that lie is locked into the structure.
Mm-hmm. So the structure reflects that, and that's corruption and death.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So for me at least, I see that there's value for a lot of people who at least are appointed towards. I can see so much better now where you come from in being disturbed because I, like I said, I just in this worksheet I witnessed it. Like I contacted that little kid that was like so afraid and in guilt, and at the same time, I also want to say that, the gateway of the church is for some people that, it helps them to get to the idea that there is a way and start looking for it, and get into a relationship with Christ or with somebody else, some other beings that can help teach them forgiveness or start helping them to achieve it. So it's like a two-edged sword in a sense. There's an error in the system that's really grievous, but there's also, like I think if we didn't have it. I mean, that's why Christ came here, to teach us the path, right? So if anything that leads us back to.
My offering is that a lot of those people who are doing, hellfire and brimstone are wonderful, genuine people who, with all their heart and mind, want to make the shift. And they pretend they found the gate, and they haven't. That's why they're still condemning little kids to hell. And big kids, too.
The ones that have made the change, they don't condemn like that so much. They're more about, there's
yeah, you'd never hear condemnation from their mouth. You'd never hear.
I'm not making. Okay, right. There's preachers out there that I'm not making assertions. I'm just saying my understanding. There are preachers out there who are doing that because they really haven't found it all together. You're saying, and that I can understand that could be true. And then there are others that aren't doing that because they have, or they're closer to, or are somewhat in the process of letting
they found
grace.
The gate. Yeah. They may not be finished any more than you and I are finished. They may not be finished, right. But they found the gate and they're doing the real work. And out of that person's mouth, you'd never hear a word of condemnation. You'd hear a word of accountability. You'd hear a word of, hey, you better face what you're doing. The only thing that they're going to offer is the space of active present love for that process to occur.
Okay, that's great. I wish I'll go back and listen to this all again for sure. But you just said, just some of the way you phrased that, I would almost have you say it again. That they're only the presence of love or something like that. A way to really discern, is somebody offering a lot of condemnation, or are they offering grace?
Why, if you and I were having a conversation about an issue, why would I condemn you? There's only one reason. Because you've resonated something in me that I have condemned myself for. Remember Paul talked about this one? Beware you who judge another, for that in which you judge another you have been guilty of practicing. Now that doesn't mean you can't hold somebody, you can't hold the thief accountable for their behavior. And, and maybe, the proper thing to do is to put them in jail. Doesn't mean that can't happen. But that would not be done with a mind of condemnation. That would be done with a mind of accountability. That was one of the things that I learned from Judge Asa D. Kelly, Superior Court Judge in Albany, Georgia. Put thousands of people behind bars for years and years in life, but he never condemned one of them. Never punished
Right.
one of them. What I learned from Judge Kelly, what I watched him do in the courtroom was, hey, brother, who just committed this heinous crime, and he used to actually say this in the courtroom, you know, the people in your community took up a collection and built a building with bars around it, and they asked me to decide who was safe in the community and who wasn't, and you're not, so I'm going to put you behind bars. Love you like a brother, but I'm going to put you behind bars. There was no condemnation in him. There was no punishment in him. But he did hold people accountable for their behavior, and he cared for and took care of his community. And everybody that he put behind bars, he offered them laws of living as a way to get free of whatever it was that had them doing the behaviors that got them in front of him in the first place.
Yeah, which in many cases.
So you're only going to hear condemnation around something from someone who has exactly the same issue that they have not resolved within themselves, and therefore they can't hold the space of love for another for something they aren't able to hold the space of love for in themselves.
Right. Distinction with accountability and condemnation is really a good one. Mm-hmm.
And make sure to apply that to yourself. If you find yourself in some sort of condemnation of yourself, know the same principle applies. Okay, so there's a piece of me, a piece of work I need to do here to free myself from this condemnation. And that will usually involve a power person dynamic, almost invariably. I would venture to almost say 100% of the time. And as far as I know, until the Codependence to Interdependence workshop came out with that codependence tool, I've never seen anywhere on the planet that knows that piece of information. I didn't know it. I was actually doing a workshop. This goes back 30 or so years ago, and I finished doing a workshop in Hartford City, Indiana, at John 23rd Retreat Center. And when I finished the workshop, they said, you want to come back next year and do something? I said, sure. What do you want to do? And I was just, oh, I don't know. Well, I need a title. Codependence to Interdependence. And the next year came around, and I actually had a week off, and they'd invited me up, you know, if you want to come up early and just have some quiet time. The center is going to be empty that week before your workshop, so come on up. And I went up there, and I had no clue what I was going to teach as codependence to interdependence. And the day I arrived, I sat down and wrote the whole workshop out. And as far as I know, that dynamic has never shown up anywhere in Plenders before. And until somebody resolves that dynamic in themselves, it runs their whole lives. Literally runs the world. Every business, every government, every church, every community, and virtually every family on the planet. Until that dynamic, either that dynamic was never experienced, which I haven't met anybody, but I can imagine there are people whose family systems were clean enough that it never happened. And until it's worked through, you know, those three things happen. This person's got more control over my life than I do. They're not functioning as love, and I perceive it as survival. Now, the child who's subject to that, and it's not necessarily a child, usually it is. I remember I worked with one man who was in his 70s. He was in a store, and it was held up at gunpoint, and they threatened to kill him. He took on it at 70, the power person dynamic in relationship to the gunman. So it's not necessarily a parent and a child, but almost invariably it is that. And it plays out when one is ultra stressed without reserve. They will automatically do whatever their power person did to them that they hated the most. It runs the world. And they'll talk about how they hate themselves and they're never going to do it again, and they're never going to do it again. They really mean it until the next time they are ultra stressed, and then not knowing what to do, being in confusion, not having a clear mind, they turn to the unconscious dynamic and say to themselves, this is metaphorically, I don't know what the heck to do here, and I'm under such strain and stress here. What did my God, my power person, do to win over me when things got this bad? And that's the advice they take. That's what they do. Usually hating themselves for it afterward.
Help
And
me
it's when
better
they're ultra stressed that happens.
So power person dynamic creates codependence. Is that what you're saying? I just feel like I don't have enough brain cells for it. I understand. Yeah, I have the. Okay. If you want to expand on that, I'd be interested. Like, how are they? You're probably saying they're the same thing, but for my brain, it's like I have this file on power person dynamic, and then I have this other one on codependence, and I'm, I don't have them bridged into the same thing at the level of, or the relationship between them at the level I would like. So I'm asking for that.
So our definition of codependence would be the same as our definition of denial. Whenever I think or speak as though something or somebody outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me, I'm in denial. I now I tell my mind to make up a reality about that object of attention that makes them responsible for what's happening inside of me. And that's my lie. So this is exactly the same definition of denial. That's what codependence is. So if there's ever been a situation where you point at someone out of hostility or fear, or even love, same thing, what the world defines as love, if you point at them and say they're responsible for this, you're in codependence.
Okay.
Now, the power person dynamic is what runs the behavior out of codependent situations. So once the power person dynamic is installed, those three things occur. Power person is not functioning as love. When the power person plays out that dynamic, the child, think of the child as an energy field. The child's energy field opens just fully wide with no filters and takes in every energy in the environment. The power person may be, let's say they're in extreme rage, although they haven't said a rageful word. The child is still going to absorb the energy of the rage. So they're not functioning as love. They've got more power over the child than the child has, and the child perceives it as survival. Now the child opens up, sucks in every energy in the environment. Until that dynamic is resurfaced and forgiven, there will only be three behaviors that person can do for the rest of their lives. And just take a look and see if this fits. Because it fits for everybody, all the time. When there's little or no stress, we do whatever we did to get along with our power person. When stress starts to build, we'll do whatever we did to resist and survive with our power person. And when one becomes ultra stressed, they'll do what their power person did to them that they hated the most. Runs the world. And until that one's resolved, there's no choice. It's all decisions. The decision-making mind runs the game. That's when people say, I don't know why I did that. I'm never going to do that again. And they mean, the alcoholic says after the stupor and they learn what they did, I'll never do that again. And they mean it. But they're going to do it unless they go in, delve in and deal with that power person dynamic. The next time the stress is up and the chips are down, they're going to do it again. I mean, they're so sincere. I will never do that again, I promise you. And they mean it. But it doesn't matter whether you mean it or not. If you don't have the tools, the awareness, and know how to go into your mind and remove that underlying power person dynamic, then when the stress is up and the chips are down, it's going to pop up and run the game again. And as you do your work, you free yourself from it.
Very good.
So one of my suggestions would be that you begin once again and go through the Codependence to Interdependence Online Intensive to self-study. And around this issue that you uncovered, that you're talking about, that you do the extended power person worksheet. And see what else you uncover and free yourself from. And if you remember from the workshop, that worksheet's, I think, now 14 pages long. And it just takes the whole unconscious mind apart, right there on the page.
Okay.
So breathing,
right.
are you breathing?
Yeah. Sometimes.
So wherever the breath stops, that's when something wants to move. That's like, no, 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 don't let this move.
Yeah.
You got to really, you remember, so many times you've heard me say it, become the thinker apart from the thought, the feeler apart from the feelings, the actor apart from the actions, that you can observe your own body-mind unit in operation. Now you're getting conscious as a being. And you can take charge of the instrument rather than the instrument running you. Now Satan, rather than running your life, becomes your footstool, put back where it's designed to be. Carbon-based memory is designed to be your servant. The mind of man is designed to serve you, not run you. But most people's lives are run by carbon-based memory, by what's stored within the genes and within this body that's made of, its primary element is carbon. 666 is the number of carbon. 6 electrons, 6 protons, 6 neutrons. Told me we got 10 seconds left, so it's going to cut us off and hold the space, and perhaps we'll continue this conversation on Monday. We've got a family issue going on tomorrow, so we're going to be playing a pre-recorded show. And thanks, Doug, for the questions, and everybody.